All right, so now in the diabetes stuff, we need to do some box plots. Well, you've done those and so forth, but we need to do this running average and do a scatter plot uh, um, of running average versus BMI. Yes, okay, yes, that's what I want. Because what we want to do is get this running average of the let's see, running average of the outcomes, okay, of the outcomes, and use that instead of the actual outcomes. All right, so I go to my data. Here's my data, and I want to make this running average. Okay, so I'll put that in running average, and it's the running average of the outcome, and so maybe I should put running average outcome. Hit enter. Now, to make this look a little better, I'll squeeze that out there, and I'll go ahead and tell it to center them so they look a little nicer when I do it. Now, so what we want to do is just do an average of 10 rows of outcomes. So I go here and I do 10 rows. Now, I can see that I've got I've got a little box by my pointer there that says 10R by 1C. So I know I've gone 10 rows. Well, I can always click and then count, double check by counting if I don't get a box like that, and make sure I have 10 rows. So I hit enter and I go like that. Okay, and now I'll just do the double click thing to copy them all the way down. Now, I do have a problem. I don't really want these running averages for 0 BMIs because that's not good data. That's bad data. Okay, so I want to get rid of that. So I could say delete. Okay. Now also, if you go to the bottom, notice what happened was all of a sudden, I got all these nice things. Why all of a sudden are these really weird? Well, because the last 9 rows were including blank rows, right? Because I was supposed to go 10. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and it averaged in this blank row and so forth. So I don't want those either, so delete. So all I want is this much of the column. And now I could just leave it like that, and I can create plots from that. Now, again, though, what you really want to do is have the BMI next to this outcome. The BMI are the X's, the running averages are the Y's. Well, so again, on any given spreadsheet, I could do it a couple ways. One is I could just insert a column here, call this BMI, again, because it is, and I could just make a formula. Now I'm going to start at the top, even though I'll end up deleting these, and I can say equals that value, put it in, and then send that all the way down. But again, I don't want these data, so I'll delete those. And I don't want these data, so I'll delete those. Now, with either of these, I could then do a plot. Now, what I don't like are the missing data here and so forth, but I think within the spreadsheet, now I'm not sure what would happen in decimal, so I'll check. But within the spreadsheet, I think I can still just highlight these two things, say insert a chart, and pick a scatter plot, and sure enough it does. Okay, and I'm just going to finish. You would want to add axes labels and title and get rid of this legend over here and so forth. Now, this is a pretty crappy looking plot, I think, but it does tell the story. It shows, you know, how as I move up in BMI, the risk seems to increase because I'm the outcome is getting higher, right? So in the you know, as the BMI gets bigger, my risk gets higher. So I can see that. And however, you know, like I say, it's a crappy plot. So you know, you can work with this plot, but you know, move it over a little bit. Okay. Now let's see if I just try to do the same thing here. Highlight those two. Do a copy. So a Control C, and I go to Desmos here. Let's see what happens. Oh, I need to do a Control V for paste. It worked great. Okay, so I can leave those blank lines if I want to. And now I think this is a better looking plot, partly because what I can do, you know, very nicely is if I zoom in here, and you can change the scale and so forth on the spreadsheet plot, but it's not as easy. You know, so I can move in here. I can see this pretty well. If I even want to broaden it out a little bit more, I can come in here and change my x-axis. Say it goes to about 50. So because of this stuff over here and so forth, I'll take it to about 54. And see how that looks. You know, so I can do that. And you know, I think I'll probably move this over just a little bit more that way. You know, I think this looks better. I can add my axes labels in here. I can make it bold so it shows up a little better. I think this looks better than the Excel plot tends to. And, you know, I can very quickly and easily change colors. You can do that pretty easily in a spreadsheet as well. You know, but again, I kind of like this a little better. But both have merits. Spreadsheets, like I say, they're ubiquitous. Learn how to use spreadsheets. But also, if you find a nice software that does some things a little better, well, learn how to use that and incorporate it. And again, you know, I can move this way, and you know, I could change names and that sort of thing if I want to. But you know, so there's a plot. You know, I can make that. The big thing was, you know, creating this running average of the outcomes and only getting the data we wanted. Now, another thing we could do is if I really want to move these up, I can do some trickery here, and actually I think this will work nicely. I can add another sheet. Okay. Now, if I go here and highlight both, and I do a cut, not a copy, okay, but a cut. A Control X, or if I right click, say cut. Okay, it all disappeared, and of course that all disappeared. Now I'm going to go to the next sheet, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to do my paste. And notice everything still looks good, I think. Oh, wait, did it? Yeah, that's correct. You know, and I can look at this formula. And if I look at this formula, notice it has diabetes in front of here. It's looking at this other sheet. So because I did a cut, it kept the references where they were supposed to be. And now, Okay, and see, this is where the trickery is. Now I highlight these rows and I say delete the rows. And everything's still fine. And now I highlight that again, I cut it again, I come back over here and I do paste, and magically everything's back to the way it was, except that I don't have those gaps in the BMIs. Pretty cool. Now, you could also argue that, you know, when I had those gaps, I suppose you could argue that, well, yeah, none of these BMIs are any good, so actually none of these rows are any good. I could have just deleted those rows to begin with. Okay, well, yeah, the problem is maybe I want those rows back if I'm looking at diabetes pedigree function or looking at age, because those ages are perfectly fine, right? You know, or maybe not the skin thickness. Any zeros in there are probably bad data. Insulin probably, I'd have to look at the, you know, the description again, but probably an insulin of 0 is probably not good. Now pregnancies 0, well, those are probably good data. You know, but you know, one could argue after I sorted by BMI, I could have gotten rid of these rows anyway for what I was doing, and then I wouldn't have had to worry about the gap and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So you know, you have options as to how you work with these things. You know, me, I would want to get rid of that gap, but I also wouldn't want to get rid of the data. Now, again, another option is, okay, I go here to diabetes, I say move or copy sheet. I'm going to copy it, and it says it's going to give the name diabetes 2. Sure, I can go with that name. I could change the name, whatever. And I would like to move it before sheet 2, so it's after the right sheet. And so I'll say OK. And had I done this before I did all the running average and all that kind of stuff, you see I'd have this sheet and this sheet. Well, on this sheet, you know, I really could, and I'm going to do it, well, let's see. If I do the undos, it'll probably undo my copy, but that's okay. So I'm going to undo, 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 undo. Okay, I'm back to here. So even if I'd gotten here, so, you know, yet another thing I could do is I could copy the sheet. So I'll do that again, right click, copy sheet, mover copy sheet, I'll click copy, again go with diabetes 2, move it before sheet 2, say OK. There I'm on diabetes 2, there I'm on the first one. Now at diabetes 2, at this point, now I'll go ahead and just delete those rows. Delete rows. And so I've got the original data back over here. And at this point, if I wanted to, I could delete the graph here and these two columns and then leave this. But yet that's another way to deal with kind of working more with what you have. And for that matter, you know, at this point, I could actually start deleting all of this. Now I got to be careful, that's a formula, right? And so if I delete this, it'll mess up that formula. So I could come in here and I could delete these columns. And then I could actually delete these columns, including that BMI one I made. I probably don't want to do that. The reason is my graph is coming from that. So delete columns, and oh, I got rid of my outcome. Yeah, so undo. So I don't want to get rid of the outcome either because of a formula. So delete outcomes, and so I could reduce it to, and this looks fine. You know, I've got my original BMI and outcome data, and then I've got my BMI and running average outcome data, and I could grab this thing and move it back over here where I can see it, and there you go. Or again, I could use my Desmos graph, and I can save it and so forth. Okay, so that's that idea of running average, and I can create that graph, and so I think we're done with this one.